Yes! Sunday, August 29th, NRG Stadium, Houston. Gates open up at 2:30. Also sponsored by Cricket and HEB. NationalBelloutOfBeds.com. Get your tickets right now.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, watched exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. Today's first guest, Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate. Jim, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos.
Jim, we are in the area that often we have to have a game plan, and it looks like, again, a game plan for a dangerous storm. I guess that's the price of being in this area, Jim. You got your game plan ready?
I'm ready. Yeah, you know, I don't have that much I have to do, but I know what I have to do, and got my batteries, got my stocked up on food, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're going to be all right, and we are a resilient people, and this is not the first go around as far as the storm. You never underestimate them, but you have a good game plan and you execute that game plan. And after that, hopefully it's back to normalcy. Wow, what a pandemic going on as well, Jim. Oh, well, here we go. Pleasure to have you on. Last time we talked, Southern University football was in their fall camp. Now fall camp is officially over. Jim, if you could update us on some things that that you highlighted as far as the 2021 fall camp for Southern University.
Well, it wasn't there wasn't a lot of sexy stuff for Southern to do. They were, you know, starters were just about all back. So what Jason Rollins spent a lot of time trying to not to mention names, because I think he wanted, they were looking for depth. We all know who's going to play. Outside of one defensive starter, everybody's back. They're going to have to find a kicker and a punter. But there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff, a lot of situational work, a lot of seeing who can play and who can get into the rotation. So when I say depth, it's not people that are sitting on the bench. It's people who they can trust to put in the game for a starter to give them a rest. So that's the kind of thing they're looking for. And that's vital, because Southern's going to be playing teams that play hurry-up offenses. In fact, the first game's against Troy, and they play the fast-paced hurry-up offense. You've got to have 4 defensive tackles, 4 defensive ends. You got to have at least 3 linebackers that you can rotate. You got to have multiple defensive backs. So there's that, and then, you know, you've got to be, you know, they're going to run multiple wide receivers. They already like to run their running backs, but that's the thing they're trying to do. They're trying to get the depth settled on, so they know who they can trust once the whistle blows.
So, Jim, they're pretty much settled on, and I guess I'll put it as those number 2 on the depth chart as backup. Have they made the decision on that, or it's still, work in progress? Albeit game week is Monday. Have they settled on those number 2, those backup battles?
Well, the backup, yeah, it's they're trying to find people, and he doesn't like to mention names, but I think they know who they are. But they've got to be consistent. You know, they've been telling me, well, we'll have a guy that'll play well one day, and then the next he has a bad practice the next time out. So you're not sure about a guy like that. I think one position where they're a little thin is at linebacker, because they just because they don't know. They got a good one in Ray Anderson, but having lost Caleb Carter, the next man up was Derek Williams, and he played a lot. He was in the 3-man rotation at linebacker in the spring, but he's a freshman. You know, he was a freshman in the spring, and he's got 5 games under his belt, played a lot of snaps, but they've got to find some people behind those 2. That's the key. I think they got plenty of defensive backs. I think they're fine there. They got they've got 8 guys on the defensive line, I think, that they're comfortable with. So, linebacker position is the one. Now, offensive line is a place where they're very firm on their starters, but still haven't got the reserves. There's a guy, Charleston Paul. Right now, I think he'll be the 6th offensive lineman, and they're training him at tackle right now. But I think in the future, they see him as a guy that can play anywhere on the line. But right now, they don't want to overload him with learning guard, tackle, and center. So they're working him at tackle right now. And if they had an injury on the offensive line, they might move one of the starters into that injured spot and put Paul at tackle. Say if a guard got hurt, they might move Jatari Carter or Jeremiah Stafford to guard, and then bring in Paul at tackle or something like that. So, he gives them some options, and they're looking at him as somebody that maybe can play multiple positions down the road a ways.
This is Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for The Advocate, discussing Southern University football fall camp 2021 version. Jim, update on transfers. Now, I get a lot of questions about the two transfers in particular. Are they in school, and are they now officially in the football program?
They're both in school. I mean, the 2 transfers that I think you're talking about, Terrence Dunlap, he came from Troy, very good cornerback, and Danny Jackson, a wide receiver from Louisville, who is actually going to be playing tight end.
Yes.
They had a shortage of people there, so they moved them to tight end. They got plenty of wide receivers. They're both in school, and they're both practicing. They're full go for practice. They're just not eligible to play in a game yet. That's what the paperwork that's being, Dunlap sat out the 2019 season because he was academically ineligible. So I'm sure they've got to make sure he's got enough credits to be academically eligible for Southern. And I'm sure I'm assuming that's what it is. And so, these guys can practice as much as they want. It's just whether or not they're going to be eligible to play, and I'm sure Terrence Dunlap really wants to play against his former team. So, and he's a guy, Jason Rollins was telling me that he's a guy that NFL scouts have been asking about. They want to come see him. So he's got a possible future. He had 3 interceptions and 6 pass breakups in the spring, and that's a lot. I mean, they played 10 games, and so he sounds like a guy who can make plays. Sounds like a guy who might be good in man-to-man coverage. So he might get that spot opposite Glenn Brown if he gets eligible.
Yeah, well, I guess Southern University, they have to be cautious to make sure they dot their I's and cross their T's. But that's a question that I've been personally asked. What about Mr. Dunlap? What about Mr. Jackson? So I'm glad, Jim, you were able to give us some information on that perspective. Now, here's going to be an interesting question, Jim. Who has been the surprise player or players at camp? I know Coach Rollins doesn't like to mention names, but who would you say have been the surprise player or players 2021 fall Southern University football camp?
Yeah, he's really close to the vest when it comes to recognizing one player over the other. In fact, he says, if I mention a couple of names, the other 3 guys are going to be mad at me. Well, one guy, and I think you saw it in the scrimmage on Saturday, was Tyler Kirkwood. He's a wide receiver. He caught 2 touchdown passes. He's a big guy. He could probably play a little tight end. They got so many wide receivers right now. It's hard to tell, who's really at the forefront. I think Marquis McLean is going to be their starter, one of their starters, and Jorian Valine, but Kirkwood has inserted himself into the equation, and I think you saw it in the 2 plays. He made a really good out and up move to catch the 32-yard touchdown pass in the scrimmage, and I'm gonna tell right now, you know, he got open and it was a good throw, but he didn't drop the pass. You know, he's not dropping the ball. He caught 3, and so they were throwing the ball to him. So that tells you something. So I think if you were going to say somebody that stood out and has had and Jason Rollins said he's had a good camp, so they may be looking for a little extra from him too.
What about Mr. Whitfield? Chandler Whitfield.
You know, he's been
not a surprise, huh?
I think they like him, and I think one of the indications of that is they've been using him as a punt returner. And he also caught a touchdown pass in the first scrimmage. I didn't see that one, but it was a long touchdown pass. And this is a guy who's got skins on the wall. He played at ULM, and he was having a decent career at ULM. You know, he caught a few passes for them. Maybe he was crowded out of the equation up there, but I saw him play in high school. He's very impressive. You know, Zachary had multiple players that you know, could play Division I college ball. So yeah, I would look for him. I would look for him to make an impact too. That's what I'm saying. They got a bunch of wide receivers. They got the kid that came from ULL also, Gossett, Khalif Gossett. Big kid, 6'6", got good speed. You know, he's good. Rollins said he'd be good in the red zone. You know, when you're 6'6", you just throw it up there and they catch it, you know. So you get you past, you know, get you that red zone touchdown. You don't want to settle for a field goal when you're in the red zone.
That is very important. I'm visiting with Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate. Now, we're going to still stick with offense quickly. Ladarius Skelton, from all accounts, has really improved decision-making, ball security, attitude. So, you know, in fall camp. Now, we'll have to see when they get to playing a team with a different jersey. But talk about Skelton and at least the improvement that he's made in being a leader of this offensive team at Southern University.
Well, I would say in his defense, you know, this is his last go around, and they like what they see. I mean, the fact that he lost 10 pounds tells you that he was committed in the summer. And because I don't know if he really had to lose that weight, but he said it makes him feel quicker and faster. And he needs to be better in the pocket. I think his decision making is what has to improve. And one thing that Rollins did in the summer was they put all their players in the classroom. They had every player sit down and go through classes to learn about the responsibilities of their position instead of just, you know, telling it to him on the field. And so that may help him, but he's got to make better decisions. And not just better decisions, but he's got to make up his mind quicker. I think he gets into trouble when he sees, instead of throwing the ball instinctively, he double pumps or he hesitates just a fraction of a second. And that's when you throw a pick. Because if you hesitate, you know, the defensive back can sense that. And then that's when he starts to move toward the target before the quarterback releases the ball. He's got to release that ball as soon as he sees that opening, because it closes in a fraction of a second. And that's what he's got to get better at. Everything else he does, you know, you've seen his arm. He can throw the ball as far as anybody, but you got to be able to be a passer, not just a thrower. And that means making your decisions, throwing on instinct and knowing instinctively that your receiver is open, and then making the decision whether or not to pull the ball down and run. They don't want him to take a lot of hits because, you know, that wears on you later in the game. They will continue to run the option. And I think that's what makes Southern a really dangerous offense. When Ladarius Skelton runs the option, he almost never, the first tackler never gets him. And it is a really, really effective weapon in the fourth quarter when you're trying to protect the lead, because defenses do not like to try to defend the option. It's just very difficult. And if it's assignment football, if you make if you bust an assignment, you know, the quarterback can run for a long ways.
And Jim, good point. Yeah, assignment football. And Coach Rollins has stated this is still going to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, a run-oriented, a run-first offense. But from what I've been hearing from you, I think they'll be able to make some teams pay performing and passing the football much better because you got tight ends, you got a plethora of wide receivers. Do you still believe it's going to be, let's put a percentage on it, maybe 60, 55, 45 run to pass? Or do you think their ultimate goal is going to be balanced on offense? What do you think?
I think 55-45 is pretty close. Here's what you want to do. I mean, this is basic football. I think, you got to mix it up. You can't let them sit on the run or sit on the pass. So you got to mix it up. They're going to take shots downfield early in the game. I know they're going to do that because they've got the athletes to do it, and they've got the quarterback to do it. Well, what you want to do is you want to get into the second half with a lead. And then you hit them with the run, because the defense, if you've been holding the ball, and you saw this in the Jackson State game, Southern just brutalized Jackson State with their running game in the second half. They were helpless because Southern held the ball. Jackson State's defense was on the field the whole game, and then in the fourth quarter they just couldn't stop the running game. And so that's what you want. You want to take your shots early in the game, get a lead, and then and hold that lead by running the ball and controlling the clock and making the other team desperate. And I think that's what we're going to see. I think they'll throw the ball a good bit, and they've got the people to do it. So yeah, I think 55-45 that's pretty close to what we're going to see.
I believe I could be an offensive coordinator there, Jim. with percentages here to run the pass ratio. I'm visiting with Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate. Last but not least, you kind of mentioned a little bit, but special teams. Southern University, they have some freshmen, they have a returning place kicker. Where does Southern University stand as far as special teams? Will we see multiple players handling multiple duties, or multiple players with a specialized duty?
I think very, very possibly you could see 3 different people handling the kicking. You could see, I don't know, I'm going off the scrimmage. In scrimmage, they had Martel Fontenot punt as the punter. I think he's the most likely punter right now. Because punting is much more of a you've got to have some poise, because you got people rushing you, and you got to kick the ball. You got to get it off in like, what is it, 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds. You got to get the ball off to keep from getting it blocked. But you also got to get the ball up high. You don't want it coming back, the other way. So I think Martel Fontenot, being a junior, he's probably best suited for being the punter. The other 3 guys seem like place kickers to me. So Luke Jackson did a pretty good job. He hit 3 or 4 field goal attempts in the scrimmage, and he was doing the extra points also. But I think Joshua Griffin's, he's the freshman from Vicksburg. He's got the strongest leg, and he put 1 at the goal line on 3 kickoffs. He put 1 at the goal line, 1 at the 2, and 1 in the end zone. And that's an effective weapon. If you can put the ball in the end zone, that's what you want. So and I asked about that. I asked Rollins, is this an indication of what we're going to see? And oh no, these are guys, they're still competing. In fact, we may not make a final decision until a game or 2 or 3 into the season. So maybe we could see an ongoing battle. And like you said, you don't know how these guys perform in a game until they try to perform in a game. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, it's going to be game week Monday, and I guess preparations. And then, of course, you have a storm here that will hit Sunday. So hopefully Southern University, they won't have to alter their game week preparation at all. But it'll be interesting at Troy State. And one of my questions was going to be an early look at Troy State, but you already answered that, Jim, with the no-huddle offense. A team from my last account did struggle a bit against the run. But again, if they want the ball, Southern University, any establishment of the run game and kind of into that time of possession, I think that's the goal that Southern University wants against Troy State. And don't turn the football over, but time of possession, establish the run, and play smart. Would you kind of halfway agree with that, Jim?
Absolutely, you got it down. You got to have depth, because you're gonna get tired on defense. Defense has got to get off the field. So I think you'll see Southern throw short passes. I think they'll run some option early in the game. They'll try to possess the ball, and they're going to have to protect. They're going to have to. Troy likes to blitz a lot. They had 66 tackles for loss in 10 games last year. That's a pretty high number, and 22 sacks. So they're going to be up at the line of scrimmage. They're going to challenge Southern, and Southern's going to have to make them pay for that by hitting a big play. So I think you're going to see Southern trying to go over the top early in the game too. They're going to maybe, try to suck them in with the run and short throws, and then go deep, try to hit a big one, and maybe get them to back off a little bit.
Well, you're playing up. There's, to me, no pressure for Southern University. You come in, try to execute your game plan. You're not expected to win, but hey, maybe you can shock the world. But you want to play up to your capabilities, get in, play well, and then get ready for week 2. But it starts the Coach Rollins era against Troy State. You're playing up, but just this Southern University football program, he inherits a program that is not without talent. Championship mode, yes. They have a window for that, yes. Jim, any closing comments? And once again, appreciate your time as always here on the Coles Brown Show.
Yeah, I like Jason as the coach. He recognizes that this program has a winning attitude about it. They expect to win, and that you can say that, and it doesn't sound like much, but that's important. If they expect to win, that's part of the battle. If you don't believe, it's easy to play poorly and accept playing poorly. But Southern has a winning attitude. It's got a winning culture, and I think in addition to having the talent and the depth, because they do have it, I don't know what else you need. So it's going to be. I expect them to make a good showing against Troy. I'm looking for a good guy. I think they've got a very good chance of winning the game.
Well, on that note, we're going to say, yes, we're pulling for Southern University, and hey, go in and compete and make a good accounting of yourselves. Jim, appreciate the time as always. Hey, man, stay safe, and we'll talk again real soon.
You too, Carlos. Watch out for that for the flying debris.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little last walkthrough after the show around the perimeter of the house, and hey, then execute the game plan.
That's it. That's a game plan.
Take care, Jim.
You too, Carlos. Thank you for having me.
All right. That was Jim Kleinpeter. He covers Southern University athletics for the Advocate. I'm going to take a time out. When I come back, I'm going to visit with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network live from Atlanta, GA. Charles is, I'm sure, so excited. So excited. He gets a chance to call a football game after, 2 years? He'll preview Alcorn State and North Carolina Central and the SWAC MEAC Challenge from Atlanta, Georgia. You're watching Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Hear the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the Pregame Show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG, Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
The HBCU football experience is back in Atlanta on August 28th. College Game Day, the Coca-Cola fan experience, the Battle of the Bands, the Cricket MEAC Swag Challenge will have it all. Visit MEACSwagChallenge.com for more information.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready, because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your fam.
Yes, that sound means it's time once again for the 36th annual Labor Day Classic. Featuring the Prairie View A&M Panthers versus your Texas Southern Tigers for the Battle of the Lone Star State on Saturday, September 4th. Kickoff, 7 p.m. at BBVA Stadium. Don't forget the halftime Battle of the Bands as the TSU Ocean of Soul take on the PVA MU Marching Storm. Tickets are available online at www.tsusports.com/LDC tickets. Let's bring the Nick Sterling Traveling Trophy back to its rightful home. Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports
Tell everybody
Network.
they can follow their dreams.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show. Watch exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. Guest number 2, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. I'm sure he's elated because tonight, he'll call an Alcorn State, North Carolina Central football game. It'll be the first time, I guess, in 2 years, Charles. Good morning to you from Atlanta, GA.
Yeah, good morning from Atlanta, week 0. And to be exact, Carlos, you want to be precise and exact, for Alcorn, it's been 607 days since we played a football game. The 2019 Celebration Bowl, that was 607 days ago. So it's been a minute.
I know you're excited. You know, hey, you're a veteran broadcaster, so I know you're not going to be nervous, but the excitement is there to do something that you love to do, and that's called a football game via the radio for Alcorn State University, Charles.
Yeah, it's taken a minute to knock the dust off. You know, we were doing some testing of equipment last week, and I forgot how to operate some of that stuff. It's the first time I pulled it out of the case. No, I'm just being honest. I understand. Yeah, I mean it's just to get that going, get that lather going. But I'm all ready to go. You know, it's been a minute. It's been trying. It's been challenging. But here we are. You know, we're gonna play a college football game today at 6 o'clock Central Time, and I'm eager to see how long it'll take for these teams to get the lather going, because there's no question both teams are rusty. It's been 647 days since Central's played a football game. So you know there's going to be nerves, there's going to be rust. You have to expect that. If anyone sits here and thinks that the Braves are going to pick right up where they left off, humanistically, human nature says probably not going to happen. But I do think this offense will get it going at some point during the game.
Which also sounds like with your equipment, you had a little rust to knock off, and so showed the football teams a little rust with North Carolina Central and Alcorn State. But you were able to persevere and get it done. And I guess that's what both teams would like to do as far as being off for literally, I'll just say 2 years, around off that number in 2 years. With that being said, Charles, a first look at North Carolina Central head coach Oliver. Give us a preview of North Carolina Central.
Well, Coach Oliver was at Southern University. He was a safeties coach there on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that's going to be one of the big keys in this game. This Braves offense, we know how explosive it can be with Felix Harper and LaCharles Pringle and a lot of other different weapons, Nico Duffy in the backfield. This North Carolina Central team lost a lot on the back end after 2019. Their sack leader, their interceptions leader, their leading guy in tackles. So they lost a lot on defense, but they have a veteran presence up front, and I think that could very well, balance out. I think for this game, if the Braves can pick up where they left off offensively, they scored over 40 points in the Celebration Bowl. If they do that, then I think they'll be fine. Because I just don't. In looking at Central offensively, even 2 years ago, they weren't a team that scared you offensively. They had a quarterback that threw for a couple of thousand yards. You had a running back with 3 touchdowns. I think they're kind of, dink and dunk type offense. They're not explosive. At least the numbers don't indicate that. So if the Braves can jump out here, if they can jump out tonight, 14-21-0 and make Central play catch up, I think they'll be fine. But, again, Central might be one of those teams, if you let them hang around, you let them get it going, then they can find a way. So, we'll see. I think it's the Braves offense versus Central's defense, I think will be the key matchup to watch tonight.
What would you say, and listen to Coach Oliver in some interviews, he talked about the physical maturity of his team from an offensive standpoint, and he thought offensively this team potentially could be one of the most explosive North Carolina Central University offensive teams in the past few years. How would you discuss that? What are your thoughts on the potential of North Carolina Central offensively, as Coach Oliver said, the potential to be a very explosive offensive team?
I think it's, the potential is there, but I also think that when you're developing an offense, especially a young offense that didn't score a lot 2 years ago, the one thing you need is reps. And it's been 2 years since you had those reps. So I understand what he's saying, and I think he knows his offense has got to do better than what it did 2 years ago. And he feels like he's got the pieces at quarterback and running back to do that. I think, up front, they have a veteran bunch up front, and you always talk about the trenches, Carlos. I think in the trenches, that offensive line can hold up, and if they can hold up and open some lanes, give their quarterback an opportunity to throw the football down the field, they could put up a lot of points. But just statistically, and this is a challenge because we haven't played in almost 2 years. Central hasn't played in almost 2 years. It's hard to kind of get a read on what could happen because it's been a while since these two teams have played. But you just look at, the last bit of data you have on both these teams, the numbers would suggest that Central just is a team that just doesn't score a lot of points. They're not like North Carolina A&T or a Bethune or Florida A&M. They're just not that team. So the numbers indicate they don't score a lot. And if they do increase that offensive productivity, that means the Braves are really going to have to get it going offensively.
I'm visiting with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, Atlanta, Georgia, site of the SWAC, Alcorn State and North Carolina Central. Alcorn State, biggest takeaway from fall camp, goals, benchmarks, were they able to accomplish that and kind of preview Alcorn going into this ball game tonight?
Coming out of camp, watching this team throughout the course of camp, it was a very business-like approach. Not overly excited or overly hyped. I think, some of the coaches were worried about this team being just too geeked up and too hyped up because they hadn't played in almost 2 years. But just being out at practice, watching a couple of scrimmages, you just never got that impression. I do think that the hunger is in their belly because the team that they need to catch in the division is UAPB because we are now a member of the West. And as far as the SWAC championship goes, the champions are in Huntsville, Alabama. So I think the hunger is there, the fire is there. But in terms of being too geeked up because they haven't played, I never got that sense. With Fred McNair, you know, it's a business-like approach. You've talked with him. It's all about business with Coach McNair. He can laugh and smile and joke, you know, from time to time, but it's all about business. And that's what this team has been about. It's been about business. You know, the biggest question, you know, coming out of camp was who's going to be the backup quarterback for the Braves, you know, and that question definitely has been answered. And you know, we'll get a good look at that tonight in terms of who the backup quarterback is. Those questions really weren't answered. And even Coach McNair said the other night, it was still up for grabs, up part of this week. So that's an interesting development that we had. That was an intense quarterback battle for the backup position. So it just shows you how, you know, you want to vet that and make sure you make the right decision. There were 4 other guys vetting for that. So, you know, we'll see how that plays out tonight. But, you know, hopefully Felix Harper can get it going. But definitely one of the biggest battles in camp was the backup quarterback position.
And Charles, you know, you could say that about not only the quarterback position because my theory is, and I think it's been tried and proven, that coaches know basically who their starters are early on in fall camp, especially if you have a lot of returning players. You still want to see competition, though, and those backups are so important. What, you're 1 injury away in most cases, and, you know, not you want to see which backups can kind of step into that number 1 position if called on to do so, and being able to accomplish that role and do it well. So with that being said, tremendous battles for number 2s across the board.
Absolutely. And just for those who might not know, our backup quarterback is a Memphis transfer, Markavian Quinn. You kind of heard his name mentioned throughout the course of camp. When he stepped on campus, you kind of heard that he really surprised a lot of people, really wowed a lot of people. But, you know, with these coaches, it's all about what you do on the field. You know, what you see, what you hear in the hype. It's all about business. I mean, we know that. Look how many division titles we won. I mean, you go all the way back to John Gibbs. He got hurt. Lenore's Footman came in. He got hurt. Then Noah Johnson, he got, I mean, so you just go, these coaches know, you know, it's all about business. And right now, Quinn is the guy that has stepped up, a Memphis transfer. Obviously, he's got the experience. I also think, though, that you look at some of the backup, you know, running backs. Nico Duffy, we're going to get a lot of him tonight. You know, you look at Jonathan Bolton, but then there's a kid from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, in Alabama's backyard named Javante Leatherwood. He's a freshman from Tuscaloosa. You heard a lot about him in the spring when we signed him, that he was going to be a beast. So he's going to be a guy that's going to get a bunch of carries tonight in that role. So I honestly think, Carlos, there were some good battles for the number 2s. We kind of knew who the number 1s were, running back, quarterback, but the number 2s, because you're 1 play away, as we all, I mean, it's a dead horse statement, but it's definitely true. You're 1 play away from coming in. And I think the coaches feel comfortable in terms of the 2s and even some of the 3s if need be.
I'm visiting with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, live from Atlanta, Georgia, SWAC MEAC Challenge. Tonight, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on, Charles, ESPN2, correct? Or is it ESPN?
No, it's going to be on ESPN. If you got DirecTV channel 206.
I'm trying to put you on ESPN2, and it's on ESPN. And speaking of game day, have you had a chance to kind of soak in maybe the game day atmosphere in Atlanta, weather, all of that good stuff, fan participation?
Well, I wasn't at the game day today, but I got a chance to look at all the pictures and video, and it looked pretty electric. You know, you saw the bands out there, a lot of fans, a lot of our fans with the signs, and so it clearly was something special, something that, as Jay Walker said, is long overdue. And just to be able to, you know, put our teams on the map, put the SWAC on the map, put the MEAC on the map as far as game day, it was pretty special. And I was at the stadium yesterday as they were setting up, and it's definitely a different feel. That ballpark was the old Turner ballpark where the Atlanta Braves used to play their baseball games, configured into a football facility. So it's just to have football again. I mean, just that feel of watching a football field from the press box, and just doing all those things that you do. Then you add game day to it. Then you had First Take yesterday. Then you had Good Morning America. We had, you saw the segment with Coach McNair, Felix Harper, and Charles Pringle on Good Morning America. I mean, it was pretty electric around here. Our fans have been here. They'll be in there tonight. So it's really something special. And I'm glad we have, college football back. Glad that we're back. And hopefully, if we do all the right things, we can have a good, successful season.
So speaking of the atmosphere there, put you on the spot a little bit. I'm known to do that from time to time. Estimation. Give me an estimation of the crowd, you think?
I'm going to say probably about 15,000. I'm going to say about 15,000. I mean, we still are dealing with a pandemic. And I've read up a lot of the comments. A lot of folks wish they were here. A lot of the older folks and a lot of folks in general just say they just can't risk it right now. And you respect that. I think under normal circumstances, you probably would have a lot more. You probably would have twice that. We've had 30 plus at the Celebration Bowl. So I would say about 15. And that would be great. That would be great if that is the case, considering we haven't played in a couple of years, neither Central. So that would be my prediction. And I hope I'm right in that. I hope I'm wrong, and maybe I'll undercut it a little bit. Maybe there'll be some more. Maybe there'll be more than that. But we talked with John Grant. Ticket sales we're going well. And again, we want to stress the importance, even though it'll be a good crowd. I think watch the game. John Grant talks about the eyeballs versus the fans in the stands. It's all about the eyeballs and getting the ratings up and keeping the game on the ESPN platform. So that's very important.
Well stated. Understand. Visiting with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Appreciate his time on a busy Saturday for him. You can smell it in the air. Now you'll be able to see it. It's football season, week 0. Keys to victory, Charles, for Alcorn State. If they are to win this football game, what will be 3 keys to victory?
Well, one thing that we have not talked about is, we've had an all-conference kicker for 3 years. He's no longer here. That's going to be key, I think, one of the keys. We've got this kid, Ruben Beauplan, who will be our kicker. We're going to have a place kicker and a punter. We're going to have 2 kickers. In years past, we've only had 1. We've only needed 1. But we'll have 2. I think that's going to be key. First game, nerves. How will the field be flipped in terms of punting and field goal kicking and PATs? That will be important. But I think the biggest thing, I go back to what we talked about at the top. This North Carolina Central defense lost a lot. And I think if the Braves can get it going early, put Central on their heels and make them score the football, which they didn't do 2 years ago, I think the Braves will win this game. However, as I've seen with high school football, it can get sloppy in that first game. And what you don't want is turnovers and mistakes and flipping the field against you and giving a team like Central. I mean, two years ago, they were 4-8, 3-5 in the MEAC, so they haven't had a lot of success. If you give them confidence, and we've seen that thing take off on you, if you give them confidence, and they'll figure some things out. So I think the key for me is Alcorn's offense versus Central's defense, because if you put them against the scoreboard and make them score points, I just don't see them being able to put a lot of points on the board.
Somehow, Charles, I really believe, with that being said, I just bet North Carolina Central would like to establish the run and kind of eat the time of possession up, control that to keep. And the interesting thing about Alcorn State, we go back to 2019, quarterback injury, Noah Johnson. Then you get Felix Harper in. I'm still giving kudos to Alcorn to be able not in 3 or 4 games, but instantly be able to evolve that offense to what Felix Harper can do. And now to me, Alcorn became it's more explosive to a certain extent, and then also run. They've always been run oriented, but then they were able to pass the ball effectively. So to me, Alcorn is the essence of balance to me. And I'll see if they'll be able to continue that. But North Carolina Central, I believe, will really like to eat that time of possession, control it, and try to keep Alcorn's explosive offense off the field. You agree, Charles, or am I off base on that?
Oh, absolutely agree. I mean, when you're a team that's not used to scoring a ton of points, the one thing you want to do is work the clock, as they say in basketball. You know, you want to get a lead and then you want to milk it. I mean, you look at their running game. Isaiah Totten, you know, he averaged 4 yards per carry. He had 3 touchdowns 2 years ago. So their team, I mean, so that's not a lot of good numbers, but when you're playing ball control, averaging 4 yards a carry is not bad at all. And so I think that's gonna be the key. I think Central's the underdog. I was looking at something on Twitter just a few minutes ago. I don't know if you're a betting man or not, but they're a 15-point underdog in this game. And according to Vegas, I mean, I know for those who don't bet, but that's kind of what that amounts to. They're a big underdog. Everyone's talking about Alcorn. No one's talking about the Eagles. So I think for the Braves, they've got to get out of the gates and then kind of, you know, make Central think a little bit and do things that they're not comfortable in doing. But you fall behind. You know, if you let them control the clock, you're not going to have many possessions. It's going to be like one of those games in which you won't have a lot of possessions to get things done, even though Central's lost a lot on that defense. But what you don't want to do is fall behind and give them confidence and let them milk the clock and take the ball away from you. Play keep away, as I like to say. I think you're exactly right.
Let me see if I can get AD to got a question for you, Charles, off of Facebook. AD, let me know if you can give us that question. There you go. Good morning. Well, afternoon to you, AD.
Good afternoon, everybody. This question is for Charles. This is from our Facebook page, and this is from Dwight Moore. Charles, how will we get a well, let me sum it up. Are there any plans to play the backup quarterback tonight?
I don't think so. Unless we have a big lead. I mean, if we get a big lead, then I can see that happening. But Felix Harper, you know, they call him Trigger Man. And if we do what we can do, and if we pick up where we left off, get a big lead, yes, we will see our backup quarterback, our Memphis transfer that everyone's been talking about. But I expect Felix Harper to get a lot of time. He needs that because he hadn't played in 2 years. And this offense is just tailor-made for him. You know, guys, he's a guy that hangs in the pocket. He's going to run the play until it's over. I mean, he's going to go through all the progressions. Now, we know Noah Johnson, the previous quarterback, had the longest run in school history, 91 yards. But Noah Johnson had happy feet at times. Not saying that was a bad thing. But Felix Harper is going to take some shots and stand in there. And you saw that last year at times, Carlos. But to answer the question, I expect Felix Harper to get every snap tonight unless we're up 5 touchdowns with 5 minutes left. I mean, that sounds great in theory, but I think that, you know, the answer to the question, no, I don't expect backup to play tonight unless Felix Harper gets hurt or unless we have a big lead.
Okay. Well, thanks for answering that, Charles, and thanks for the time. I know you have a busy day in Atlanta and night. So with that being said, we appreciate the time. Stay safe, continue to stay safe, and I'll chime in, which means I'll listen in to you and then have the sound down on ESPN, not ESPN2. For Alcorn State, North Carolina Central.
I appreciate that, and our thoughts and prayers with you and your family and everyone in this in Louisiana, Mississippi. We got a monster coming here, and just be safe and be aware of what's going on.
Very well said. Appreciate the time, Charles. Take care. All right, that was Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, kind of previewing SWAC MEAC Challenge football game. Alcorn State in North Carolina Central, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN, not ESPN2. I have to make that adjustment. I'm going to take a time out. When I come back, I'll visit with Brandon B.J. Jones of the HBCU Sports Lounge. New show on the Black College Sports Network. He joins me next. I'll be right back. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
The inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic is personal to me. It's more than a matchup between Tuskegee University and Fort Valley State University. My beloved father, Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts, was a proud member of the Tuskegee Airmen. 922 brave pilots, also known as the Red Tails, fought in World War II. The Boeing Red Tails Classic is more than a celebration of HBCUs. It's a reminder of the Tuskegee Airmen's valor and sacrifice, the first class of black fighter pilots who trained at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama during the height of Jim Crow, fighting for America, while in many ways America fought right back against them. This inaugural Boeing Red Tails Classic, this football game, is for them. And it's quite special that this game, which will be played at the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, opens the 2021 college football season on Sunday, September 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. When you watch this game, please remember its larger meaning, that it's for a group who advocated for themselves while still facing prejudice and discrimination in the segregated Army. The Tuskegee Airmen story hardly gets told enough. I, proud daughter of a Tuskegee Airman, join others who champion their legacy and how they influence generations of black cultural and political leaders.
My grandfather was a case in that study. He worked as a firefighter where the Tuskegee Airmen trained. He and I were phenomenally close. The syphilis study happened for 40 years. Penicillin was found to be the most effective treatment, but the men were denied the treatment. Interestingly enough, I've had someone tell me that they were concerned about getting the vaccine because of the syphilis study. And I always, try to educate or provide some information about what happened. But then I said, you're talking about something that happened to my family. And I've taken both of my vaccines. I'm doing this for them. Health is greater than wealth, and it's really up to us to take ownership of our health and this story.
Texas Southern takes on Prairie View A&M for the Nick Durley Traveling Trophy and the Labor Day Classic on September 4th. Tickets available online at tsusports.com/LBC tickets.
Your ad could.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, watched exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. Now I'm going to visit with Brandon B.J. Jones. B.J., good morning. I want you to introduce your new show. You have the flow, sir.
Oh, man. Well, good morning, Carlos, man. I am the host of Inside HBCU Football right here on the Black College Sports Network. So we did a little trial run on Wednesday, got a lot of positive feedback. People were very excited. Got an exciting show coming for you guys on this upcoming Wednesday, but just tune in, man, to support.
You're absolutely right. And Got a chance to see a little bit of it. Outstanding. Hey, the Carlos Brown show's football analyst. Brandon BJ, how about that? Yeah. So with that being said, BJ, we were talking before we started this segment, and once again, I just want to not put it as a panic, but of course in Louisiana specifically, outlying areas, Mississippi, Hurricane Ida, and it's never underestimate those storms. I've been here all of my life, a long time, BJ. And, never underestimate those type of storms, and I don't think you ever get used to it. You played collegiately in Southern University in Baton Rouge, so you very well know about how you have to take this storm very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, up until I got to Baton Rouge in 2003, I had little to no experience with hurricanes. Being born in Arlington, Texas, and then growing up in my latter years in Birmingham, Alabama, our thing was always tornadoes. But learned really quick, just the severity of hurricanes and how devastating they can be. And being at Southern University in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina hit, and something that I would never forget. Those days leading up to Katrina and, the weeks and months afterwards, man, I'm just not have gotten to the point, maybe in the last 3 years, where I can talk about Katrina without choking up and, I can actually talk about it.
I understand. It's, a tragic storm, and there have been storms, and, you're used to it, but then you're not, if you understand what I'm saying. You never like them, but, you got to have a game plan, and hopefully you'll be able to execute the game plan. And then just like a football game, you can have a great game plan, but sometimes you have to make adjustments. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can't wait to halftime. You may have to make an adjustment in the first quarter. So once again, just keep this area in your prayers. At the end of the day, everything will be all right. With that being said, BJ, SWAC MEAC Challenge coming up is week 0. There are other football games. There's Central State and Kentucky State, and then also Edward Waters and Florida Memorial. But get your first thoughts, early look before the game, SWAC MEAC Challenge, Alcorn State and North Carolina Central.
I said originally this week, I like Alcorn to cover that, that 13-point line. I think you take Alcorn with the points, there's just so much on that Alcorn offense, from Nico Duffy to Felix Harper, Charles Pringle. My only question about Alcorn is, how do they replace those starters on the offensive line that they lost in 2019? They're having to retool that offensive line. If they can retool that offensive line, because the strength of North Carolina Central is that defense, if they can retool that offensive line, keep Felix Harper upright, keep him in the pocket, it could be a long day for the Eagles from Durham. I think one of the key factors in this game is going to be Isaiah Totten, a running back from North Carolina Central, has been the starting running back there since his freshman year. He was a MEAC Newcomer of the Year a while back, first team All MEAC. He's an outstanding running back, and I think that he can play himself into the draft conversation starting tonight. He has that type of talent, one of the better running backs that you'll see in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference.
BJ, I kind of ran this by Charles Edmond and North Carolina Central. Do you think it would be to their advantage to control the time of possession? And in that way, if they're able to do that and to kind of keep, and we're basing this on, of course, 2019, be able to keep Alcorn State's offense off the field and limit their number of touches?
Yes. I think if you're North Carolina Central, that's what you need to do. They have a young quarterback, but he's experienced. He started as a true freshman there, Richard. Threw for over 2,000 yards, 12 touchdowns on 9 interceptions. He returns. I think he's matured as a passer, but he ain't played in 2 years. So I think, one of the things that you do to eliminate mistakes, keep that ball on the ground, and you have the running back to be able to do it. And they also have a transfer running back, 4-star from Oregon. So they have the horses in the stable to be able to play that ground control and run the football, and they return 3 of the 5 offensive linemen up front. So they have a senior offensive line with some experience. Take advantage of that.
And Coach Oliver basically said this offense potentially could be one of the most explosive offenses that North Carolina Central's had in a few years. What do you think about that statement that Coach Oliver basically made about the potential of his offensive ball club?
I'm gonna be honest with you, that's not really saying a lot. All right, I know Malcolm Bell was a bad boy from North Carolina Central a while back. That offense that he had back then, that offense was solid. But North Carolina Central at that time won games on the defensive side of the football. If you remember that Celebration Bowl against Grambling, that 10-9 game, it was that defense that completely just stifled Grambling. Grambling only scored 10 points, the lowest scoring output of the year, but they can only muster 9 points. All right, so that's not really saying a lot. All right, gotta keep that in mind. When we talk about explosive North Carolina Central offenses, you almost have to go back to the days of Coach Rob Broadway, back when North Carolina Central was Division II. And even then, that North Carolina Central team has always been led by defense. If you look at their identity and what they've been, North Carolina Central has been a football team that wins on the defensive side of football, and they get just enough offense, but defensively, that's where North Carolina Central, that's their brand.
So in other words, BJ, Coach Oliver is, I'm not going to say trying to pull wool over someone's eyes, but he did say potentially offensively, but you're calling his bluff on that one.
I mean, it might be. Yeah, it might be. If they could score and move the ball and be one of the top rated offenses in the MEAC, that's light years compared to where they usually right in the middle tier. When you think of North Carolina Central, you don't really think of explosive offenses.
Right. So, will it be North Carolina Central's defense versus Alcorn State's offense? How do you see that matchup going?
You know what? North Carolina Central defensively, they finished in the top 30 in so many different categories. Number 1 in takeaways in the MEAC. Number 1 in pass yards allowed. They were 1-3 in all the major categories as far as defense. Problem is, you only returned 4 starters on the defensive side of the football, and then you lost one of the biggest playmakers who is now playing, in the NFL. Now that defense is young. All right, you only return 4 starters. You're bringing in some new guys. We'll see. This is a game that you want that offense to be able to control the football and not put so much pressure on that young defensive squad.
Well, BJ, you're the analyst, and I said a double-digit victory for Alcorn State, and I thought maybe I was being a little bit too confident, but now listening to you, I think that's I stand by my prediction. With that being said, but hey, that's just predictions now. It's got to be played on the field, correct?
Yeah.
And it'll be a lot of intangibles that's going in, but those are just a couple of intangibles and perspectives from Brandon B.J. Jones. B.J., other FCS HBCU football games that catches your eye?
Starting next week, man. It's Jackson State and FAMU. We've talked about the importance of that ball game and what that can do potentially in the race for the Celebration Bowl, the race for the SWAC championship game. The winner is already sitting in the catbird seat. The loser already sitting 2 games back before we even get to the second week of September. That one's big. I think another one that may go under the radar is Bowie State versus Delaware State. We talked about in the spring of how much better the Hornets from Delaware State, how much better they've looked. Well, they played Bowie State, who was ranked in the Division II polls, one of the best HBCU programs over the last 2 to 3 years, predicted to win the CIAA again. Delaware State hosts Bowie State. Bowie State can make a strong statement by getting the upset over Delaware State, but Delaware State can make a statement that they are here and they can be a contender by beating Bowie State. You know, it's not often you see a Division II team this strong coming into the season, but that's when I got another kind of circle. And then South Carolina State at Alabama A&M. South Carolina State says that the spring was an anomaly. When they played Alabama A&M, they were missing some pieces. They're back full speed. Alabama A&M embarrassed South Carolina State in Orangeburg. All right. Now they make the return trip. They go to Normal, Alabama, on the Lewis Cruz Classic. Alabama A&M gets to make a statement early, or South Carolina State can make a statement early. South Carolina State predicted by many, to win the MEAC and go into the Celebration Bowl. Alabama A&M wants to prove that the spring was no fluke. So I think those are three of the games that I'm looking at as far as those key games. Also, Grambling State, Tennessee State, up in Canton, Ohio, the start of the Eddie George regime. What does that football team look like compared to what that football team looked like under Rod Reed for the last decade? And Grambling, you know the spring that they had, very disappointing. It's a hot seat on Broderick Fobbs. I said this on a Wednesday, and I'll say it again. Grambling fans are willing to forget the spring. They ain't going to forget the fall. They're not going to forget the fall. So it's going to be key for Grambling to get off on the right foot against Tennessee State.
And you know, BJ, let's see if you remember this. We both were together, standing, and we're talking over to Grambling State and Coach Fobbs at SWAC Football Media Day. Do you kind of remember or summarize what Coach Fobbs told us about the spring and going into the fall? Do you kind of remember?
Oh, I remember everything. He said, don't get too stuck on the spring. They were just trying to make it. Grambling was just trying to make it. That's not who they are. And if you know anything about Grambling, we're not down for long. His exact words. Coach Fobbs knows both of us, and he knows we're Southern guys. So, it might be another reason why he talked to us for so long. But he wanted us to know that. He wanted us to know that. Broderick Fobbs, one of my good friends in the business, and I think the world of him. But he was strong in that. And if you look at that roster, they've been able to retool a little bit, the coach, and I believe it. Grambling will in the fall than what they did in the and I think that they might not go to the show, but I think they may stop some people from going.
Yeah, and I look at Grambling. I believe it's a winnable game, correct?
Yes.
And then they play up FBS the next 2 weeks. So, they could be a better team. The record may not show. They have a tough schedule, but can't every team say that they have just the tone in his voice? We're not going to be down long, and that just kind of stuck with me. Look at Football Media Day.
Yeah, look after those FBS games. Look at that next 4 to 5 game stretch for Grambling. That's going to be their season because you got Prairie View sandwiched in there. You got Alcorn sandwiched in there. Those games right after those FBS contests. That's the meat of the schedule right there for Grambling. That's going to tell you everything that you need to know.
Yeah, and that's why back to what I said, they could be better not indicated because they do have some tough ball games. BJ, you kind of took an early look at week 1 of the HBCU football games. or let me do this. Then Texas Southern and Prairie View. Texas Southern, Coach McKinney, have not won a game. Who's the most pressure? Who has the most pressure in that ball game? Is it Texas Southern to not only win but win a game, or Prairie View with Coach Dooley? And some Prairie View alums are very restless about the Prairie View football program.
I would say that Eric Dooley is up under the most pressure. Honestly, I would say both of them. But I would say Eric Dooley is up under the most pressure because of that roster. I will continue to harp on this fact. I can make an argument that Prairie View has had the most talented roster in the SWAC for the last 2 seasons, 2018, 2019. You'll be hard pressed to argue against that. If you look at the individual talent on that roster, that talent has not yielded you a SWAC championship. That talent has 2 consecutive losses to Jackson State, 2 consecutive losses to Southern. And the only real game that you can really hang your hat on is beating Grambling. Prairie View people are restless. They didn't bring Eric Dooley into Prairie View to have winning seasons. They brought him in there to compete for the conference title. And to be honest, Prairie View is not doing it. So I think if you were to lose to Texas Southern, who has not won a conference game, I think since 2018, early 2018, there might be some tiki torches and there might be some other things marching along, marching on the road to Prairie View, asking for some changes to be made. They don't like losing to Texas Southern, but you can't lose to this Texas Southern team, especially not this one. So I'm going to say Eric Dooley and Prairie View.
I would agree, and one would say maybe underachieve.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word for Prairie View and football program. And of course, we both know Coach Dooley very well. Nice individual, nice coach, especially known as an offensive guru. But at the end of the day, you have to show progress and you have to have done better. Yeah. No divisional championship. Of course, no overall SWAC championship. So I would agree, BJ. Tell us a little bit more about your show that's coming up on Wednesday. A sneak preview. You don't have to give it all out, so we'll tune in to watch.
So we are heavy, man, recapping today the MEAC SWAC Challenge, also Edward Waters Floyd Memorial, Central State, Kentucky State, up in the shoe, and then really diving into week one. Some key matchups in HBCU across the HBCU football landscape. We going full blast, man. Gonna have a few guests on. Still working on that. We'll get a guest list out there probably Wednesday morning, Tuesday night. But yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. It's week one. Going to have a lot of fun to it, and actually looking forward to it.
Hopefully, I'll be in 100% shape for next Saturday. We'll see what Hurricane Ida has to say about starting this Sunday. But week 0 today, week 1, some tremendous games. Of course, if you're a Southern fan, Southern at Troy State, and BJ, they're playing up. But talking to people, they just want to see a competitive game and be competitive. They will be disappointed if it's a 40-point loss. But I just really don't think that's going to be the case. It's a new mindset. It's a new day with Coach Rollins. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that with Southern going to Troy, I've talked to some Troy people and they're a little nervous. This is not the Troy that Neil Brown left when he left and went to West Virginia. They have not been winning to the level that they would like to win. Matter of fact, this program has taken a step back. Troy people are a little bit nervous, and I will say this: I think that this is a prime year for the SWAC to get one of those FBS wins. You're looking at Southern, Troy. Alcorn goes to South Alabama, who is not a good football program. And I think that's in 2 or 3 weeks. FAMU plays South Florida, who's not a good football program. I think there will be some opportunities for the SWAC to not only get some non-conference FCS wins, but potentially knock off an FBS squad, which is something that the SWAC has not done since the mid-'80s. So I think that this is an opportunity with who's scheduled and where those programs are currently. So I think this could be a key year to have that for the conference. And what better year than the year that the conference celebrates the 100th anniversary, the centennial year of the conference, which was actually last year, but celebrated this year. What bigger way with FAMU and Bethune-Cookman coming in and Deion Sanders and all the things that we've been hyped about? What? There's no better time to do it than right now.
And I especially have a couple of games circled. Southern hosting McNeese, and then Alcorn State hosting Northwestern State. Playing those FCS Southland Conference teams.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotta do better. You gotta continuously play those teams and win for many reasons. One being recruiting, and then 2, pride.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a good thing there.
And also votes, top 25 votes. What impacts the
Let me
top
mark
25?
that down.
Yeah, and what impacts the top 25? I've been a voter on the top 25 poll now for 4 consecutive years. When you get into those meetings, those conference calls, and when you're breaking down the votes, it's all about the strength of your conference. And the best way to prove the strength of your conference is to step outside the conference and win. And when you don't do that, people discredit your wins because your conference hadn't done much outside of itself. So that's another reason.
Okay, not that you don't have enough pressure, Southern and Alcorn. We're counting on you. and BJ, am I missing another matchup? I just want to make sure with a SWAC Southland matchup.
Southern will play McNeese. Alcorn has Northwestern State. Prairie View has a couple of those games as well.
Don't forget somebody.
So does Texas Southern. You have, let me see, FAMU steps out against South Carolina State. So does Bethune-Cookman. I think that we'll have Valley with Murray State and a few others. So, yeah, we have a few of them, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and UCA. So, yeah, we have a couple of them across the conference.
I'll put it this way. There is an excellent opportunity to get a win. The opportunity is there. So thanks for that reminder, BJ. Hey, man, be safe. We appreciate the time as always. And, hey, we'll talk with you next week. We'll have recap of week 0, then preview week 1. It's football time. It's here.
Absolutely, man. And sending my prayers and thoughts to everyone down in Louisiana, man. You guys be careful, man. Be smart. We praying for the absolute best outcomes. You guys stay safe, and man, we praying for you, man.
I appreciate it. We will survive.
All right.
Take care, BJ.
All right.
All right. That was BJ Jones of Inside HBCU Football and Show on the Black College Sports Network on Wednesdays, 6 p.m. With that being said, let me take a time out. When I come back.
Carlos, before we go to break, I want to tease something out.
Okay.
I want people to do a little bit of homework during this break. I want them to tell me what North Carolina A&T has in common with the 2 opponents in today's BAC SWAC challenge. Once again, what does North Carolina A&T have in common with today's opponents in the BAC SWAC challenge? Now you can take us to break.
All right, that was AD. You didn't see him, but you could hear him. But he's going to join me next. We got a poll to unveil. And you know what? Most polls, you try to be objective, and that is the goal. But I'll tell you what it does, it will bring on discussion. So when I come back, we're going to put that poll up for you and see what you think. Take a break. You're watching the Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network. I'll be right back.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime! Get ready for Cracker Barrel National Battle of the Bands! Presented by Pepsi Zero Sugar. Sunday, August 29th, 4 o'clock, NRG Stadium in Houston. Featuring the hottest HBCU marching bands. Southern University, Langston University, Tennessee State, Norfolk State, North Carolina A&T State, Texas Southern, Bethune-Cookman, and Jackson State. Don't miss the battle on the field and the stands with scholarships. Over $500,000 in counting for our HBCUs. It's an HBCU experience you don't want to miss. With a weekend of activities with the Cracker Barrel Step and Stroll, Pepsi Zero Sugar Emerging Experience, Esports Masterclass and Gaming Tournament, and the free Pepsi Zero Sugar College and Health Fair. Tickets start at just $15. Get them right now at nationalbattleofthebands.com. It's the Cracker Barrel National Battle of the Bands. Sunday, August 29th, NRG Stadium, Houston. Gates open up at 2:30. Also sponsored by Cricket and HEB. nationalbattleofthebands.com. Get your tickets right now.
Can I get the now bar, please? $1. Have a good one. Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
The HBCU football experience is back in Atlanta on August 28th. College Game Day, the Coca-Cola fan experience, the Battle of the Bands, the Cricket MEAC Swag Challenge will have it all. Visit MEACSwagChallenge.com for more information.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Texas Southern takes on Prairie View A&M for the Nix Gurley Traveling Trophy and the Labor Day Classic on September 4th. Tickets available online at tsusports.com/LBC tickets. Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show. Watched exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm joined now by AD Drew, a Black College Sports Network sports wrap. And let me do this. Marlon says to our kind of trivia question that AD threw out, and believe it or not, it kind of stumped me a little bit there. But here we go. Marlon says North Carolina A&T played in the Celebration Bowl against Alcorn State, and North Carolina Central is North Carolina A&T's rival. AD, is he close? Is he close?
Boy, he is in the ballpark. He is definitely in the ballpark. Also, Dwight Moore says all three haven't played since fall 2019, which is in the ballpark. Also, Mr. Moore. So what's your guess, Carlos?
What did I say during the break? Somehow now I can't remember what I said.
You said something about you mentioned A&T and Alcorn in the Celebration Bowl, but I can't remember what you said about Central and A&T.
Well, I think that I said North Carolina A&T has a winning streak against Alcorn State and North Carolina Central.
Which is correct. All three are correct. But the thing that I was looking for in this question was the fact that the last two times that we saw Central and Alcorn on the field, they would get blown out by North Carolina A&T. Central losing to A&T in the Aggie Eagle Classic, 54-0 in November of 2019. Alcorn losing to A&T in the Celebration Bowl by the basketball score of 64-44 in Atlanta.
AD, I think I should get partial credit for that.
Oh, everybody gets partial credit. Everybody gets a B. If we were using Dr. Cavill's platform, I would give you.
He's a tough grader.
Credit for the answer.
Yeah. Oh, but he's fair, but he's a tough. He grades tough.
Yeah.
You know. Well, welcome back to this last segment of the Carlos Brown Show here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm going to visit with my colleague, A.D. Drew. And A.D., there's a poll that debuted this week. And if you can do the honors, we'll have a discussion on that poll. And, you know, I say use the word objectivity. That's what we're looking for, but also discussion is also important.
All right, this poll is a poll of HBCU media members from throughout the nation. There are voters in Louisiana, with yourself being a voter, Carlos, Texas, Georgia, Florida, Carolinas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and I know I'm missing a state or two as I'm going around the nation on this poll. So these are people who cover and follow HBCU sports specifically. So they have released a top 5. Well, we have released a top 5 via the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association for what we consider mid-major teams. Those are your Division II, NAIA, and non-Division I independents, and for the major teams, which are your BAC teams, your SWAC teams, and your 3 FCS independents, being North Carolina A&T, Tennessee State, and Hampton. So without further ado, in the mid-major poll, we have Bowie State as the unanimous #1 choice. Everyone voted for Bowie State for some reason. Maybe the fact that they haven't lost a conference game in 2 years might have something to do with it, and 2 consecutive playoff appearances. Miles comes in at #2 with just edging Savannah State, with Virginia State and Albany State battling out for the 4-5 slot. Carlos, your view, your opinions on this poll.
Well, I always look for an area where maybe I can disagree. But guess what? This mid-major division, Bowie State, tremendous success. And when I think of Bowie State, I think of offensive explosion. Miles has had tremendous success, and I'll get a chance to look at them firsthand at A.W. Mumford Stadium. Savannah State, boy, since joining the SIAC, they have been on an upward trend. Virginia State, Coach Barlow, I kind of know that Coach Barlow. He has gotten the program up and running, and Albany State traditionally tough. AD, this top 5 I would not disagree with. Can you believe that? I can't.
I pretty much agree with it. There was of the 5 teams that are in here, there was one team that I voted in my personal top 5 that is not in here, but it is what it is. Is there any team that you would remove from this top 5 and put in that you think, or do you think do you think the media got it right?
Yeah, they got it right in my humble opinion. Yeah.
All right. And we'll take a quick look at 6 through 10 before we switch over to the major poll. Number 6, Fayetteville State. Number 7, Virginia Union and Tuskegee tied. Well, Virginia State, Tuskegee were tied. Number of points. Virginia Union got the tiebreaker because they received a higher vote, being a second or third place vote, whichever one it was, whereas Tuskegee did not get a vote in that same number. Langston coming in at number 9, West Virginia State coming in at number 10, receiving votes, Kentucky State, Fort Valley State, Morehouse. Quick on those, Carlos. Anything you see on those?
Well, Langston coming in at number 9, very tough. I mean, they consistently now are getting it done. Tuskegee, what can you say? A powerhouse on Division II level. Virginia Union. If I probably Fayetteville State. You know what? I can't disagree with it. 6 through 10 as well, but I'm sure you would make a maneuver between 6 and 10. Correct?
I think number 1, when you look at Fayetteville State, no disrespect to Fayetteville State, they dominate the CIAA South, but every time they go outside the CIAA South, they get a butt whooping. So I think Fayetteville State may be a little high, in my opinion. I think Langston is low, considering the dominance that they've had in the Sooner Athletic Conference. They went almost 2 years without losing a game, or almost 3 years without losing a game. I know they were undefeated in, let's see, I get my years confused now. They didn't play in 20. They were undefeated in 2018 in the Sooner Athletic Conference and lost, I believe, only 1 game in 2019. So I think Langston should be higher. And also, I think West Virginia State should possibly be higher.
Yeah, Langston. Okay. Where would you move them? How many spots up you would move them?
I would move Virginia Union up 1 and move Langston and West Virginia State to, I would have Virginia Union 6, Langston 7, West Virginia State 8, Fayetteville 9, and Tuskegee 10.
I can see that. Yeah, because I'm really super impressed with Langston again, because what they've done and just passing the eye test at A.W. Mumford Stadium. Yeah, I could see that. But that's good to have discussions,
And that's what polls are for. They are for discussion. They are to generate a narrative around whatever teams that you're ranking, in this case, our HBCUs. Let's move over to the major division. And have you seen the poll yet, Carlos?
Well, I'm going to be just like the average person that's watching now.
It's your first time seeing it?
I'll be seeing it for the first time, so I've got pen and paper in hand, so I can critique if need be.
So since you haven't seen this poll, who do you have as your number 1 team?
Alabama A&M. And I know North Carolina A&T, what they've done, but they really haven't played, right, in a while. So yes. I would say Alabama A&M, but I guess you could debate between those two. But I'm more interested in, well, not more interested, but interested in 3 through 5. Because I've seen some other polls, and it seems like that's where it gets sticky at, between 3 and 5.
Anyway, here we go. Here's what the black media says. A&T did come in at number 1, 122 points, receiving 6 first-place votes. What is interesting, Carlos, Alabama A&M comes in at number 2 at 121 points, just 1 point behind A&T, but 7 first place votes, with Florida A&M receiving the other first place vote for the number 3 spot with 106 points. Alcorn State comes in 4th at 100 points, and South Carolina State comes in a distant 5th at 69 points. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to be brutally honest. South Carolina State, Alabama A&M in the spring opened up a can on them. So I would not have them. I would not have them in the top 5. And I know people are going to say, oh, there he goes with the blue and gold glasses. But to me, Southern University should be in that top 5. Not number 1, not number 2. But again, Alcorn State, they're the defending champions. What, two championships outright, divisional winners, but didn't play in the spring. So I can see where there's some debate with that. But South Carolina State AD would not be in my top 5. I'm picking on South Carolina State.
Now I've got a question for you. You mentioned Southern could possibly sneak into that top 5. What about the defending Western Division champions who beat Southern last year at UAPB? Why would you put them in ahead of Southern?
Yeah, based on that, 33-30, right? Now,
yes.
If they would have played the next week or they played 10 times, you figure out who would have gotten so many wins in 10 games. But they don't play 10 times. They play one. UAPB won 33-30. Yes, they would be ahead of Southern University, but I'm thinking Southern University and UAPB should be in that top 5. Now,
so you're taking Alcorn and South Carolina State out, putting in
I'm taking South Carolina State out, and I'm taking FAMU out.
Ooh, so you're leaving Alcorn and taking FAMU out.
Yeah, well, I'm taking FAMU out, and I'm putting Southern University and UAPB in the top 5.
So you have A&T, A&M, Alcorn, Southern, and UAPB in your personal top 5.
Wait a minute, and now I'm going to put Southern ahead of Alcorn State.
Okay.
Only because Southern played in the spring, but now we know 1-on-1. Oh, that number I would like to forget. 1-10, 1-11. Who's counting? Double digit
Southern
losses
3, UAPB 4, Alcorn 5 for Carlos.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. What I find interesting about this one is when you look at those top 4, actually those top 5, you can't really call South Carolina State the defending BAC champions. They were crown champions, but they didn't play Howard. They probably would have beat Howard anyway. Alcorn, defending Western Division champion. Defending Eastern Division champion.
Mm-hmm.
Now playing in the Western Division. Won the SWAC title in 2019. Did not get an opportunity to defend their title on the field.
Right.
Number 3.
And by the way, 2018 champions too. And
yes.
I was personally at that game. Goodness.
Yes. Number 3, Florida A&M. By record, won the BAC in 2019. Having defeated North Carolina A&T, had the best record in the BAC, but were under sanctions and could not play in the Celebration Bowl. Obviously, Alabama A&M, defending Black college national champions, and North Carolina A&T, the defending Celebration Bowl champion. They won the last Celebration Bowl that was played. So I just find it interesting that these top 4 teams all can claim they are the last champion of some kind in their respective rights.
Well, and to your point, then to me, the clear-cut team that shouldn't be in there, South Carolina State. Now, you can debate the rest in what order you can have. Now, of course, I put Southern University in there because, well, they were runner-ups 2018 and 2019, and, didn't get to the championship game. in the spring.
Rounded out the top.
I guess that's the debate that we'll continue on. Go ahead, AD.
Rounded out the top 10. Arkansas Pine Bluff at 6, Southern at 7, Jackson State at 8, Grambling at 9, Bethune at 10, receiving votes, Norfolk State and Prairie View. Any quick thoughts on that before we pick up the show and get out of here?
Well, again, we've just talked about it. Southern Arkansas Pine Bluff, a strong case to be in that top 5. Bethune-Cookman at number 10. And boy, besides UAPB, Bethune-Cookman not getting a lot of love shown. But again, it'll be played on the field. But these polls are good for discussion, and let the discussions continue. Now, Grambling State, it must be because of tradition, but you can make a strong case that they shouldn't be ranked at all. So people showing them a lot of love.
My partner Brian Fulford pointed this out on the Sports Wrap. What I find interesting in this 6 through 10, and credit to Brian Fulford for pointing this out. UAPB beat Southern. Southern beat Jackson State. All those who played them beat Grambling. And Bethune did not play. So I find that interesting in how that one actually came out in order based on spring 2020 results.
Well, because we're out of time and the objective was to have discussion, we tried to do that. But let the mid-major and the major poll be a point of discussion the rest of the day for you, and we'll come back to it next week. But
and you can go to HBCUProSportsMedia.com to follow that poll. That poll will come out every week. There will not be a poll after week 0. Next poll will be after week 1 and will run through the remainder of the season.
Thanks for that information, AD. We've got to get out of here. We appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching. AD, as you always say, what? Like,
subscribe, and share. We can't keep the show going unless you do all 3. We need you to like, we need you to subscribe, and we need you to share. And prayers go out to you and yours and all those in the potentially affected areas for this hurricane that's coming on shore. Download some of the broadcasts on the BCSN Pod Zone. May provide some much needed entertainment and some things to take your mind off of your current conditions if the power goes out in your area. So download a few episodes off of the BCSN Pod Zone, HBCU Sports Podcast, so that you can keep yourself entertained while you're dealing with some of the situations that you may have to deal with.
And as always, we're out of here. Continue to pray for the situation. We will be back. We will survive. And until next Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. For AD Drew, I'm Carlos Brown. Until next time, as always, peace and God bless.
I holler.
Right, thanks. My wife